Hey there and welcome to Get Indie Gaming, where today in this video we're taking you through our first impressions of Bloodroots, an action slasher scrapper that lands on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4 and home PCs by way of the Epic Games Store on February 27th. We first spotted Bloodroots way back in 2018 and have been keeping a watchful eye on it ever since. One of us here at Get Indie Gaming was lucky enough to have half an hour one-on-one playtime with it during last year's Gamescom event in Germany, although our player there, having recently broken and lost most, if not all of the fine motor control and feeling in his left thumb, really did struggle with the pace of the super fast and frantic action. With many months gone since this original playthrough and with a thumb that's mostly back to what it was, how did we find getting back into Bloodroots? Before we do though, let's take a moment to backtrack and talk a little bit about the game itself. Described by the devs co-founder as Kill Bill meets the Revenant, the story begins with a village massacre at the hands of a group of outlaws called the Blood Beasts. Mr. Wolf, the main protagonist here, is brutally cut down and left for dead. Having miraculously survived the encounter, Mr. Wolf, all driven by rage, anger and revenge, sets out to take down the gang responsible for the massacre and his attempted murder. Sure, it's a classic Western type of take on a man driven by revenge we've seen before, although not so much like this, with it drawing heavily from the artwork of Samurai Jack, and also the likes of Hotline Miami and movies by Jackie Chan, where for the most part, anything you're able to pick up can be used as a weapon to take down the gang members and their many hordes of minions. As for the overall gameplay, as you can see from the action on screen that's taken from the first few scenes of Act 1 of the game, much of the mechanics focus on you, the player, putting together melee attacks that are chained together using, as mentioned earlier, pretty much anything you have at your disposal. Such items of havoc include cooked chickens, crates, planks and wooden boxes, and of course there's a plentiful number of traditional weapons such as swords, guns and other instruments of mass slaughter. In most of the cases, each weapon has a limited number of usage. A carrot or, say, a tree branch, for example, will break after only a single hit. Other, bigger and more substantial items, such as an axe or a cutlass, will give you 3 bites of the cherry before shattering into pieces. Some of the most fun we've had so far in Bloodroots comes from actually using some non-traditional ordnances, such as beer or whiskey barrels and carts full of hay. You're able, for example, to jump on the latter and guide your character around the screen, crushing all those unfortunate enough to get in your way. As for the overall action, Bloodroots uses a clear the environment type of approach where you must kill off everyone and all of your foes before moving to the next section. The all-round combat and general gameplay loop this affords feels really satisfying. The team behind it have really pulled off the feeling you get, say, and we'll call it out again as it's so very appropriate, Hotline Miami, when you pull off a perfectly timed multiple chain together combo. It's also, despite the ultra-violence, really fun to play, and while we're governed on this coverage by certain content embargoes, it's all very impressive that we were left happy and smiling from ear to ear even after multiple failed runs. Of course, there are a few things we can point a finger at. Every once in a while we had a few frame rate issues, for example when Mr. Wolf is dashing and slicing and dicing his enemies, although we did play this on a pre-release code that's all set for a day 1 update. We also quickly learned you can still die by, say, falling off the edge of the map once the game says you've completed a stage, and having been that little bit silly, you need to play through the section once again. All in though, there's nothing from our first impressions, and given the shrieks of laughter I can hear behind me as members of the Get Indie Gaming team crack on deeper and deeper into the game, to suggest that Bloodroots and those who really like a Hotline Miami type of experience won't get precisely that from this wonderful gem of a game. And so with that, and before we head off, let's sit back and watch a couple more minutes of Bloodroots gameplay, and we'll come back to you just before the end.
Bow!